Hello, this is Shane Long, photographer based out of Minnesota, and pretty exciting. My Canon 85 1.4 IS arrived last night, and too dark to go out. It was pitch black when it came. So today I only had about 15 to 20 minutes, but I wanted to get it outside and do some comparison shots right away and see how it performed. I currently own the Sigma 85 Art and have loved it. Optically, it is absolutely perfect. Autofocus is great, but for me, I'm pretty average size, and with my hands, as a wedding photographer, I didn't actually use it that much as I wanted to, just because it was so big and in my bag on a wedding day. I'm really looking for lightweight. I shoot almost exclusively primes, 35, 50, 85, and yeah, the other thing I noticed with the Sigma that had bothered me a little bit is just with as big and heavy as it is, the lack of image stabilization. I noticed that I had to shoot pretty fast shutter speeds at weddings to make sure just my hands aren't that steady. So here we go, just gonna run through some photos from today. Literally, I was just after real life shots, not test shots, but I would just take my camera and try to have my kids stay in the same spots, and then just swap lenses, use the same autofocus points. So I kind of just used all my autofocus points. I didn't center focus or anything. But first up here, we have my little daughter, and on the, well, let's kind of figure out here which one is which. They actually look really similar. But as we zoom in, we notice one of them is sharp and the other is not. And if I put the info here, on this side we have the Canon, on this side we have the Sigma, shot at 1/250th of a second. If I look at it, it looks like the autofocus hit, but maybe just a little camera shake on this one. And for the record, as we're going down through these, the red ones are the Sigma, and the non-red ones are the Canon. So let's check out my son here in his glasses. I must have moved a little forward or something here because he looks a little bigger on this side, but as we zoom in, the images almost look identical. I love how dark and rich the blacks are. Unlike, I owned the 85 1.2 and loved that lens. I replaced it with the Sigma and liked the Sigma a lot more than the 85 1.2 just for its contrast and sharpness. But I'm noticing that the new Canon is almost identical. So here he is again. It's a pretty ugly day here in Minnesota. It was dark. This coat's nice and dirty already, and we haven't even been through winter yet, but both of them are looking great. Really low CA in both of them, super sharp, and as we go down through the edge of the frame, both of them stay super sharp to the edge. Certainly good enough for my needs on both of them. Maybe the Sigma a tad more, but man, I could certainly, one thing I do is I'll shoot wedding parties even at f1.4 if I have them all in the same focal plane. And when I had the 85 1.2, I couldn't do that because the people even right getting into this part of the frame would be blurry just because they weren't sharp. But once I got the Sigma, I started shooting that way and loved it. There's another little one, a little guy here. Got the Canon on this side and the Sigma, and again, Sigma's super sharp. Canon's pretty sharp there too. They look phenomenal. Going down through there out of the focal plane, looks like just his head was in focus there. One thing about that I personally really like in a lens is the swirl factor. I want my 85 to really swirl and look good, which I really love about this image, how it just kind of focuses right on the subject there. So here they are again. I must have moved a little closer or farther, but both of them nailed the focus. I mean, we had some distracting elements here, but just using the autofocus point that was on her eyelash, both of them nailed the autofocus there. Bokeh looks great on both of them. Let's see here. Oh, this was just I didn't have a Sigma on this one, but just another Canon that kind of had a nice blur to it. Really, really good contrast, sharpness. Even the shape of the bokeh is pretty similar. Like if we come in on him here, both looking nice and sharp. Maybe the Sigma a little sharper, maybe hit a little better on that one. But I love even comparing the bokeh on both of them. Pretty similar, both smooth, great. Come into the corner, similar again. Same story here. Maybe I'll get rid of the info now that we know which one is which. Yeah, I don't know what else to say here. It's looking great in both regards. Canon looks nice and sharp. Sigma looks nice and sharp. All my samples are shot at f1.42. I figure if you want to stop it down and do it that way, you can. This isn't a comparison shot, but this one's just a Canon. Really like how it renders, how smooth this is, even up here in the corners, super smooth. Yeah, so sharp. Just beautiful stuff right there. Coming out of comparison mode now. Just a few more with the Canon we got here. Love the fall off, how it just smooths right out there. This one, I do have one of each here. Just wanted to see if there'd be any CA or anything kind of weird in that bokeh behind him. I think on the Sigma it caught just a little bit of sun flare or something on the lens right when I shot it. I also like to see how smooth this is. Another thing about my 85-1.2 is it didn't seem like it kept dust out that well, so I would get dust in my lens and the dust would show up in the bokeh circles, which I really didn't like as a perfectionist. But both the Sigma and the new 85 seem to be a little better at keeping dust out, so we'll see how that plays out. Same kind of story here. Both of them there, it's great. Here's two more up close headshots, both smooth. Even at 1.4, super sharp. And just a shot of her with the 85 Canon. Boots now down here, down at the edge of the frame, and they are razor sharp. These are all, I'm sorry I never said, but taken with the 5D Mark IV. And the last image here is we got Canon and Sigma came in for some hot cocoa and tea after the cold time outside. And the only thing I noticed is a little interesting is even though I set the color temp and everything the same on both of these, the Canon is just a little bit warmer and the Sigma is just a little bit more green. So even though in the develop mode I had them both the exact same color temp. My preset, I used Portra 400 and tweak it a little bit, so I've already applied that. I wanted to see how it actually looked on my actual photos, so these are not straight out of camera, but I set the color temp and everything the same on both of them so that I could really compare to see how the color, and they look very, very similar. So that's my first little quick run through with this lens. I absolutely love both of them, but I will be selling my Sigma just because, man, the image stabilization when it kicks on that 85 it just feels like the lens is almost floating. It's so smooth. So it'll allow me to shoot more at like easily at 100th or a 25th or something. If the person is standing nice and still. And I really like the size of the Canon. It just fits my hands. I have pretty average sized hands, so the Canon just fits them great. So anyways, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully I can use this on a real engagement session or wedding soon and then post some images from that. Thank you much.